Hi, my name is Geraldine Blomfield. I'm a social worker and I've been a lecturer at the University of Plymouth. I'm here to talk to you today about the battles African women face around equalities. 1979, the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination on women, which is called CEDAW, came into play to address issues around inequalities for women. And that was a good start. Out of 53 countries, African countries, 51 ratified this convention to look at the issues, the fundamental issues that women are actually facing day to day around equal rights for women. And this convention also been referred to in many times as the Bill of Rights for Women. So I'm going to refer to it as the Bill of Rights for Women. And it's a good thing that 51 out of 53 African countries actually ratified the convention in terms of looking at the issues that we as women are facing in Africa. One of the key things for me, if I look back 39, more than 30 years now, men have been to the moon and back, and we women, yet we are still where we are. Today we are still fighting for our rights to be acknowledged, fundamental human rights to be acknowledged. And men have been to the moon and back, and we are still here fighting for equal opportunities for women. One of the key things, probably about 30 years ago as well, there was a conference in Mexico, especially for women, also again to address issues around women. But I think for me the fundamental thing in 1995 was the Beijing Convention in China, and a few key issues came out there for women. It was a convention just for women to look at the issues that we are facing. And the issues that came out of that, the Beijing conference, was the Beijing platform of action and things that's going to be addressed for women. The key things for me that came out of there, fundamental things, were to reduce poverty amongst women, stopping violence against women, for women to have access to education and healthcare, to have equal rights in the marriage, to reduce economic and political inequalities for women, stop gender-based violence against women, and traditional practices, for example, such as female FGM, female mutilation, genital mutilation for women. These are the 7 or 8 key principles that came out of that at the Beijing conference for women. In terms of access to education, we really need to get our girls into schools. That's what we need to do. We really need to get them into schools, and we really need to keep them in schools. To have equal rights in a marriage, well, it reminded me of, I couldn't understand it. My mum was a cleaner. I couldn't understand it. My mum couldn't buy. She saved up her cleaning money to buy the house, a 4-roomed house, 2 bedrooms and kitchen and a sitting room, toilet outside, water outside, no running water, basic. And I come from a family of 8 children, and she couldn't buy a house, and she saved up cleaning money at the time when she was allowed, not she, but there was an opportunity for people in the poor area to buy their homes, and she saved up her money, her cleaning money, and we used to go and help her cleaning holidays and weekends. But she couldn't buy the house on her name, and she couldn't even open a bank account unless she's got the husband's signature. Okay, yes, that have changed. Yeah, a few things have changed, but it really stayed with me why she couldn't. And I was very young at the time, but I didn't really understand what it actually meant, because I'm from South Africa and I come from the apartheid system. And as you get older, you get more politically aware, and I became very politically aware around women issues, especially in South Africa and in Africa. I don't even want to start with the feminist approach, because I will not stop talking when I start on that topic. That's a different topic that I would like to address as well at one point. But the key things for me Uh, whilst I was being a social worker in Namibia, I started the Women and Child Protection Unit. It stemmed, I worked in the Kavango region, which is Rundu, and it is the border of Angola. And we've got the Kavango River that divides Angola and Namibia. And you can see Angola from the river. And I started the Women and Child Protection Unit to teach women around rape, to teach police around sensitization training around what sexual abuse actually is and what women are going through. And so whilst I was doing this, as part of my job as a social worker, I became part of the regional team to look at the rape bill of Namibia. I was really proud about that. And we've changed the rape bill. We've made suggestions to the rape bill. And it was amended and it was adopted in Parliament. So I'm really excited now. Now I can go out and I can actually go out into the villages and talk to the women about the changes of the rape bill. So I did took me months and months to travel through all the villages to make women aware of their rights. And as I went and I talked, one of the fundamental things for me that came out in the bill, the rape bill, was that your husband can rape you. That's one of the things that came out of the rape bill, and I was very excited to go and share this information in the villages to make women more aware of what's going on, what's going on in Windu and what have been decided, and this is the new rape bill. And I sit outside, we normally sit outside under a tree on the floor, and have this community conversation. So I had a bunch of women around and I explained every detail of the rape bill. And when I came to the point of that your husband can rape you, and all the women, they were like, no, my husband can never rape me. I said, yes, he can. Yes, he can. And I tried to explain, and they were all against me about the fact that, and they said, is that even a law? I said, yeah, I'm here to explain to you the changes of the rape bill. And this is one of the key things. And they said to me, no, it's my husband's fundamental right to have whenever, however, intercourse with me. I'm married to him. I'm a subordinate of my husband. I said, no, you're not a subordinate of your husband. You have as equal rights as your husband. You have the rights. And it is. Your husband can rape you. And they couldn't understand that your husband can rape you. And every village I went around, I got the same outcome and the same reaction. And they even walked away from the meeting. No. And I realized I'm fighting a losing battle here. I need to change my strategy. Here. So I've started projects in the schools, secondary schools, with girls. I have the girls group, I have the boys group. So I talk to the boys about rape, about violence against women, about issues, that concern women and girls. And I started teaching the girls about these groups for girls. I started teaching them about what rape is, what sexual violence is, what domestic violence is, to get these girls aware, because they're going to be the future mums, and they're going to be married, and they need to know these things, because I really felt like I'm fighting losing battle. I don't know whether I've changed the ideology for women that were married when I went out and did the new rape bill. I don't think I did, because I know in my heart of heart I would never have changed my mum's mind. So you're already at a deficit. You're already fighting a losing battle. But that did not stop me. I still went around. Every year I went around and I still kept on talking about the rape bill. And I still get the same. I would like to believe that some of them listened. Some of them actually thought about it. But I don't know. And it's difficult to measure that. But I did start in the schools, and I did not stop that, because I think that's where we need to start. And if you think in terms of, there's a lack, we all talk about it, there's a lack of women in political power. And I can only blame us as women for that. I can only blame us. I'm blaming myself for that. Because we created that lack of power that we don't have in government. Every time when there's an election, I want to ask you, who do you vote for? I've asked this for women in South Africa. I've asked for women, educated women as well. In Africa, I ask women in Namibia. Every time when there's the election and there's a women candidate, I said, who are you going to vote for? It's always the men. It's always the men. Why don't we have trust in us as women? Why don't we start voting? We can change our political power if we start voting for women that are there. Yes, I know the women that have been in power. We talk about Margaret Thatcher, etc., etc., etc. You know, did not do us justice. Yes, I get that. But we need to move on from that. We need to start voting for women to have political power. We are the ones that created this sphere where we think it needs to be a man. It doesn't need to be men. We need to vote for ourselves. We need to put women ahead. We need to move women up. We as women need to take that responsibility. We cannot stop saying there's not enough political power in there. We need to start the political power for us. That's where we need to start. One of the things for me is still, I said earlier, men have been to the moon and back and we're still here. There are 4 really fundamental key things for me in terms of that uphold, promote, support, embedding inequalities for women is our traditions, our culture, religion, and governmental policies and actions. These are the 4 key things for me that I think we need to look at. I am not sitting here saying there's something wrong with our religion. I'm not sitting here saying there's something wrong with our cultures. I'm not sitting here saying there's something wrong with our traditions. What I'm saying here is there are fundamental key things in our cultures, our traditions, in religion, in governmental policies and procedures that uphold, that embed inequalities, that promote inequalities for women. If you look at the Bible clearly says the man is the head of the house and women are the subordinates. No. It's those religious beliefs and traditions and that really embed inequalities for women. I'm not saying it's wrong to be a religious person. I'm not saying about what I am saying here. We need to look at the key things, the key concepts under those 4 headings that we can actually address to improve equality for women, to promote equality for women, to enhance, to embed equalities for women. We need to get to look at those issues. If you think about traditional practices for around forced marriages, young girls getting married, female genital mutilation. These are the practices in our traditions that really are more for men. It's promoting men equality. It's not promoting women's equality. It's reducing women's rights, women's equality. It promotes and advances practices that serves men and not women. As an African woman, my mom brought us up very strong women, just in a household. But we as women, we as mums or future mums, we need to start looking at the grassroots, where how we bring up our boys and girls. Because we bring up our boys and girls differently. We do. And I'm sure I would have done the same. I don't have a girl, but I probably would have, because I would have been more protective over my girl. But we need to look at how we bring up our boys and girls in a household. Girls can also mow the lawn. Girls can also do mechanic work. Girls can also be carpenters. Girls can also be pick up heavy equipment. Boys can also cook. boys can also clean. Boys can also clean the toilet. Boys can also do the things that we expect girls to do. I remember in our household, there was no divide on the one thing that really irritated me. There was no divide on how my mom brought us up, but my dad did. And my brother used to clean the toilet. My brother can cook, he can do this. But the minute he's got a girlfriend, his wife did all those things for him. But he was brought up to do those things. It's us. We need to start here with us. As women, we need to start with us. We need to start with our own ideologies around equal rights for us and how we bring up our boys and our girls. Because we bring them up differently. And if we start there, that's where we can start changing the mindset of equality for our children. The mindset of equality in our boys and in our girls. Because we, in our homes, we uphold inequalities. And that's where we need to start. And I'm taking full responsibility for that. I'm, as a mum, as a woman, we do need to look at our practices at home and how we bring up our children. And we cannot keep on talking about equalities for women. Do you know what? Equalities for women is a dream. It is a dream. That dream we need to discard. We need to discard the dream of equality for women's rights. We need to discard that dream. What we need to uphold now is the action that we need to influence in society, in our children, in government. That's where we need to start. We need action right now. The dream is gone. The dream started in 1979 with the convention, the CEDAW Convention. That was the dream. We are still dreaming. No, the dream should end here. And we should start and dream of action. That's what we should start. So this is me. I feel really passionate about women's rights, and especially in Africa, women are still way behind in the African continent around the issues that we should keep on. I remember being in a meeting, and I was there as a social worker, and we were all it was a regional meeting where we talked about community-based work. And so while the meeting was starting, before the meeting was starting, we a bunch of us women were standing outside, and we were just talking. It was the most enriching conversation that we had around women's issues. You know, we all got excited and we all talked about what we're going to represent in the meeting and what we're going to say in the meeting. And remember, Africa is a predominant society of men. It's a domination of men, and that is embedded in our traditions and in our cultures and in our mindsets. And so we went into this meeting, and I was so excited about the meeting. And we went into the meeting, and I was so stunned and shocked, stunned and shocked, that the women I've just spoken to, very strong and very strong-minded outside, are very quiet in the meeting. And I'm like, what happened here? You know? And so I started to address the issues that I felt was fundamental, that I'm representing social work, and issues around women and children. And so I started addressing it, and the meeting was predominantly male orientated. And the minute the women that were so strong outside came into this meeting, they were quiet. They addressed the issues that they wanted to address, but not really the issues that they wanted to address. And I went along with any decisions that was made. And one woman actually stood up, and she formed an alliance within my conversation, and I formed an alliance with hers, you know. And they tried to discard what we were saying and dismissive. That was the thing that really stood out for me. But we kept on going. And at the end of that meeting, me and her were the troublemakers. They end up referring to me as a yellow girl troublemaker. I didn't like that phrase, yellow girl. I didn't like it at all. But I did like the troublemaking. That one I did like. So yes, these are the issues that I feel is fundamental for us as women, and we need to continue doing what we do. We need to continue doing what we do. So thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you soon. And yes, I would like to talk about the feminist approach and the beginning of that in Africa. That is a different kettle of fish for me. So thank you very much, Jerry.